Well, let's discuss some of those issues now with Ashwani Muthoo, who is from the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, what barriers do least developed countries face when it comes to developing their agricultural economies?
Good afternoon. Let me start by saying that actually agriculture is at the backbone of the economies of least developed countries, including for their industrialization and for sustainable and inclusive rural transformation. However, the agriculture sector in least developed countries face many challenges, including low productivity, weak technology, and also often an inconducive policy and institutional environment. There's also a need for strong leadership in many of these countries.
Now, given the impact of climate change, many of these countries, as you say, rely on agricultural production. What impact is climate change having, and how can they face those changes?
It's a very severe problem throughout the globe, and in particular climate change is affecting least developed countries even more severely. Recurrent droughts, major floods are two of the symptoms, two of the main causes for low productivity. And organizations like IFAD are actually helping smallholder farmers adapt to these challenges by introducing specific technologies that can allow them to enhance their productivity and promote better food security.
You talked there about specific products and innovations. Are there any of the least developed countries who are being particularly innovative in the way that they're dealing with the demands and the threats that they face?
There are many examples of innovations and good practices. Perhaps I could use the example of Uganda, where IFAD itself has partnered with the private sector. So partnering with the private sector is fundamental, and that in itself is an innovation. Public-private people's partnership, where we have actually a major partnership and mobilized resources from the private sector for oil palm development and processing. So there are many examples of that nature.
And how many people have you been able to reach in the years that your project has been ongoing?
IFAD actually, all the least developed countries are member states of IFAD. We have 112 ongoing projects in least developed countries. Close to 70% of our annual commitments in 2015 went to least developed countries, and around 250 million people have been reached by our programs and projects in all of the least developed countries.
So that's almost a third of the people in least developed countries.
Absolutely. But this, when I said 250 million people, these are historic numbers, not in just one specific year. This is over a period of time since IFAD started its work in 1978.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's Mr. Muthoo from the International Fund for Agricultural Development.